It's Pride Month, which means the trendiest thing you can do is something gay. In honor of Pride Month, I have some LGBT book recommendations for you to check out if you're in the mood to read something gay. First up, we have Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. I really hope that's how you pronounce her last name. Everybody knows about this book by now. If you don't, where have you been? Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda is about 16-year-old Simon who isn't out to anyone in his life. But one day, a kid from his school posts something anonymously about how he is also gay. Him and Simon start chatting back and forth, and they have this sort of relationship that's not quite a relationship. And then one day Simon's emails are found by a kid named Martin. And Martin then uses those emails to blackmail Simon into helping him get Simon's friend Abby to go out with him. It's an amazing book. There's a movie of it, Love, Simon. If you haven't seen Love, Simon, what are you doing with your life? This entire book is phenomenal, and Simon is such a relatable character, and the whole premise it's just really good. I give this book a solid 5 out of 5 stars. If you liked Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda, you will also probably like its sequel, Leah on the Offbeat, also by Becky Albertalli. This book follows Leah, Simon's best friend, in her last year of high school as she attempts to come to terms with the fact that she is bisexual. Leah has a crush on her friend Abby. The more Leah tries to recognize these feelings as romantic instead of platonic, the more trouble she finds herself in her relationship. This book is also really amazing. Becky Albertalli is a phenomenal writer. If you haven't read either of her books, what are you doing with your life? Everybody's read her books by now, and they're really worth the time. This is another one that I think almost everybody's read, but I'm gonna throw it in here anyways. They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. This book follows Mateo and Rufus, who live in this world where on the day you're going to die, you get a call and you are told that you're gonna die. You don't know when and you don't know how. You know that it'll be within the next 24 hours. Mateo and Rufus both get this call and decide to take up this app called the Last Friend app, where people who are dying can find a last friend on their last day on Earth, or can volunteer to be friends with someone on their last day. This book absolutely broke my heart. I think I cried for about an hour after I finished reading it, but it's so well written, and the premise is it's so interesting and gripping, and I couldn't put this book down. So if you want a love story that isn't supposed to be just a love story and is actually interesting and heartbreaking, this is the book for you. I've never actually seen someone talk about this book, but it was recommended to me by my 8th grade gym teacher, and that book is Georgia Peaches and Other Forbidden Fruit by J. Robin Brown. This book follows Joanna Gordon, aka Jo, in her last year of high school. Her dad marries a new woman and they move across the country to Georgia, which causes her to start her senior year at a completely different school. Jo has no friends and a big secret. Her dad has told her that while she was out where they lived before, she needs to put herself back into the closet in Georgia. Jo thinks that going through her senior year as a straight person should be relatively easy, and then she meets Mary Carlson, who is her ultimate temptation. Jo has to find a way to deal with her feelings for Mary Carlson while still keeping her promise to her dad. This book is interesting and it's lovely, and the romance in it just makes you want to have someone like Mary Carlson or Jo in your life. It's sweet and it's gripping and it's hard to put down, and you just want everything to work out for these characters. So if you want to read some soft lesbian romance, I recommend this book. And this is personally one of my favorite books that I've ever read because it's a part of one of my favorite series, and it surrounds my favorite character from that series. And that is The Bane Chronicles by Cassandra Clare, Sarah Reese Brennan, and Maureen Johnson. This book follows Magnus Bane from the Shadowhunters Chronicles. It's a book about his adventures, and while it's not 100% about his love life, it still is an LGBT book because Magnus Bane is bisexual. The book follows him through a series of short stories about all of the wacky, amazing things him and his friends have gotten up to over his many years of life. It touches on his relationships with other people, both male and female, and it brings a whole new light to this character that you might have read about and loved in the Shadowhunters Chronicles. Magnus Bane has always been one of my favorite characters, and to have a book centered around him, just about him, was phenomenal. Cassandra Clare has also written The Red Scrolls of Magic, which is about Alec and Magnus from the Shadowhunters Chronicles and follows their relationship, but I haven't bought it yet and I haven't read it yet because I can't find it in any of my local bookstores, but once I do, I'll be sure to make a review on it. This is another one I've seen talked about a lot, but I still feel the need to recommend it because while I haven't finished it, I do love what I've read of it so far, and that is The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee. This book follows Monty, who is going on a grand tour of Europe and is expected to take over his father's estate once he returns. That isn't his only complication though, because Monty is also nursing a horrendous crush on his best friend Percy. During their adventure across Europe, Monty, Percy, and Monty's little sister come across many dangers. It wasn't what I was expecting from this book, but so far it's action-packed and it's interesting. There's more to it than just a historical, fluffy romance. It's interesting, and there's a plot to follow that leaves you wondering where things are going to go next. The way this is written is compelling and interesting as well, and it's just an overall really amazing book. If you're looking for something to read, I recommend this book. And that brings us to our last book, which is Boy Robot by Simon Curtis. I have never seen somebody else talk about this book, but it is phenomenal. The book follows Isaac, who on his 18th birthday discovers that he is a robot. The only safe place for people like Isaac is in an underground society, but to be protected by them, Isaac has to make it to their base of operations. He's being hunted down by the government who set out to destroy what they created. You wouldn't think that it's an LGBT book, but the main character of Isaac has a male love interest. I find it so interesting how Simon Curtis decided to bring in the aspect of the main character having a male love interest and being gay and not have it be the focal point of the book. It's not a romance book. It's just like any other sci-fi fantasy book you'll read that has a heterosexual romance as a side plot. This one has a gay one. Boy Robot is so interesting and I could not put it down, and I don't know when we're getting the sequel, but I need it, Simon. Where is it? The representation in all of these books is wonderful, and I'm glad to see that people are writing books that have primarily LGBT characters and that they're not all romance novels. That is it for my Pride book recommendations, but there are more books out there, and I'm sure you could watch somebody else's reviews or somebody else's recommendations and get some more books if you've read all of these, or if you have more that you want to read than just these ones. Make sure you subscribe if you'd like to see me talking about more books and other things if you want to. Like this video if you enjoyed it. Thumbs it down if you didn't enjoy it. I won't mind. It's something anyways. And that's it. See you next time. Bye. Isn't that Dan Howell's outro?